All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Moronic Logic's 2023 Oscars Jamboree. With me as I'm your host Kenny. With me as always is Lance.
Hey, everybody.
And Sam is in line at Avatar right now, so he won't be joining us, but me and Lance got this totally covered.
He's obsessed with that movie.
He's very obsessed with that movie.
Shocking. He's like caught in a loop where he just gets in line, watches the movie, gets back in line.
Yeah, he's hypnotized or something by it.
Yeah. I've never seen him quite like that, but
yeah, so this is just a quick we're throwing this in here, taking a break from Hitchcock for a little bit because those episodes take a long time to make, and for 4 weeks to 6 months, somewhere like that between episodes. We're just doing this quick, so no edits. Might be a lot of swearing from Lance, and we're gonna try. We'll try to keep it to a minimum. So, Oscars Best Picture. We're gonna talk about all 10 of these movies. Lance, of the 10, which ones have you seen? Which ones haven't you seen?
so I've seen all of them, but Avatar: Way of the Water.
You should have.
I have not. It's still in the theater, which is obviously the place where a movie like that should be seen. Really, any movie should be seen, but certainly a movie like that. But I just don't really want to watch it. Not gonna lie. So, but I will watch it. I just didn't get around to it for this particular event. I will admit I'm waiting for it to go on, Disney Plus or wherever it happens to land on cable.
I think it is Disney Plus. I think they said sometime later this year, but I don't know that that's going to be the best way to see that movie. Let's actually, you know what? Let's talk about that movie first and get it kind of out of the way.
I haven't seen it.
Because you haven't seen it, and I'm going to share some screens with you. Here we go. Avatar, Way of the Water. Let's just get this one out of the way since Lance hasn't seen it. This movie is, I did see this. I saw this in the IMAX. This is, if you saw the first Avatar movie, buckle up. It's another Avatar movie. I thought this was a lot of fun. I was surprised at how fun it was, because going into this, I was kind of like, all right, who are these characters? What is going on in this movie? It's been what, 13 years since the first one, it feels like, or 20 years, 35 years, a long time. What my takeaway from this was, it's like going to an aquarium. There's like an hour, you watch the first hour of the movie and you're like getting caught up. You're like, okay, that guy's still around and that person's still around. And then about an hour in, you're underwater and you're like, wow. And you're just sitting back there and it's like you're on at an alien aquarium, and you just want to watch that for like hours. And then when the movie's kind of picking up again, you're like, just show me more of this underwater stuff. Like, it's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's strange though that it's nominated for Best Picture. I mean, maybe not strange. It's
unworthy.
Not unworthy. I'm not gonna go as far as like Martin Scorsese and say like a movie like this isn't like a real movie, because it is. But I feel like movies that are trying to entertain you, like Marvel Cinematic Universe type stuff, are kind of like, they're trying to do a different job than something like Casablanca, or something like you think of as like a classic movie that should be nominated for an award. It just feels like a popcorn movie, and it's excellent at that.
So why do you think it was nominated then?
I think people might dip on this movie or might talk down on it, but James Cameron is a visionary director, and this is stuff he's dreaming about at home while the rest of us are milling about our lives. James Cameron is just thinking about the Na'vi and the populations of this planet. And it's amazing that he has the ability to bring this to us, whether we want it or not. He's like, I've been thinking about this a lot, and you got to see it. And it's like you're in his mind, kind of. This movie had a lot of there are moments where you're like, wow, this is reminding me of Terminator 2, or this is reminding me of Titanic. There's an epic battle on a sinking ship with robots, and it's all of and it's really is, you're drawn in. You're like, this is great action. This is well directed action. It's a well made movie. I can see why that would lead it to being nominated for this. He's an auteur in a not in the way maybe you classically think of auteurs like a David Lynch or a Stanley Kubrick. He's an auteur in a different way, and maybe of the popcorn genre, but it hits all the beats. It's a good movie. You're interested while you're in there, but I don't feel like this is a movie I want to watch at home. Like I don't want to put this on my TV. I feel like I tried to watch Avatar 1 at home, and I'm just like, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, so I did watch the first Avatar, and I watched it in the theater in IMAX actually, and it was a very impressive spectacle at the time. And this was when 3D was still relatively new and hadn't lost its sheen. Did you see it in 3D? I believe it's out in 3D, correct? I almost thought that 3D wasn't a thing anymore, and then I saw locally that it was playing in 3D. So
yeah, no, James Cameron is keeping this whole 3D thing alive. I mean, no one does it. He's in a
yeah, he's like
class
the
of his
only
own.
one.
There's no
Yeah,
one
well,
else doing this. It's
right. That was the interesting
Cameron.
thing about Avatar too, because I think it was one of the few movies that was made with 3D fully in mind, 100% from the very beginning when they were, and I'm sure this movie is the same. So he's probably a master of 3D, which is interesting to think about. That he, of any director, has probably mastered 3D more than anyone else. Because I can't think of anyone else who works so expressively in 3D, or who works, just so intently in 3D. I don't know. I'm probably not making a lot of sense here, but 3D definitely seems to be his bag. And even though it's dropped off a cliff, and I actually didn't even think anyone was making 3D movies anymore until this came out. So we'll
Yeah.
see if anyone other than him, maybe Avatar 3 will be the next one, but
Yeah. This is sport. So this is not going to be my pick of the 10 to win Best Picture, but I do think it's worth seeing in the theater in IMAX if you can see it. It's if you're doubting it, if you're even a little interested or just curious, then you should see it, because it's really something unique. It's hard to pin down. It's like a different genre or different, you got books, you got comic books, you got movies, you got TV, and then you've got whatever James Cameron is doing. It's like its own little niche of pop culture. It's very interesting. So let me pull back. Let me actually, you know what? Let me pull off of this. Oh, hey, we're back. All right, so that's Avatar 2, The Way of Water, out of the way for now. So of the 9 that remain, Lance, let's just get right to the meat and potatoes of this. What was your favorite movie?
so I had two that were sort of neck and neck. One is probably going to be shared by a lot of people. The other one less so. I know that you and Sam didn't like it all, but Triangle of Sadness I loved. There were a lot of movies. I would say almost really all of the movies that I saw I liked or admired in some way. But there's only two that I really loved, and that was Triangle of Sadness and The Banshees of Inisherin.
Ooh.
With my number three being probably Tar.
All right, give me,
All of
what's
those
your number
movies
one?
are extremely.
Break it down. What's number one?
So I'm gonna say number one is Banshees of Inisherin.
All right, hold on. Here we go. Keep going. I'm going to bring up the poster. There we go.
Yeah, no, I thought this was such a beautiful movie, and obviously great performances from Brian Gleason and Colin Farrell. I mean, it's a very bleak movie. It's sort of the bleakness is softened somewhat by the comedy, which I guess is also similar to Banshees of Inisherin. Certainly less so in Tar until maybe the insane ending of the movie, which I will not disclose. But it's All of those movies, though, have in common when I think about it that they're all pretty cynical of human nature, and horrible things happen to all the protagonists. Which I don't know what that says about me, Kenny, but
You like
of those, the Banshees of Inisherin was probably the warmest, and where I felt closest to the characters and to this island and to the animals on the island. It is such a beautiful and heartrending kind of little world that you get brought into, where these characters are sort of mirroring the outside world. There's a civil war happening in Ireland, and there's a little civil war happening between friends, which kind of, in a way, fractures and has ripples throughout this tiny little island community, and it sets into motion a lot of real tragedy. Um, so yeah, I would definitely have to say Banshees of Inisherin is my number one. Again, followed closely by Triangle of Sadness, which is just a scathing, um, I
Oh
guess,
well, hold it
social
here for a
commentary.
second. Let me rebut. Let
Yeah.
me
Okay.
rebut your
All right.
Banshees of
Let's hear it.
uh all right. This is my second pick. This is the movie I like second. In a different year, this would be the winner for me. I love this movie as well. I'm with you on Banshees of Inisherin. I think. Whoops. Sorry about that, folks. I should have turned off my phone. Banshees of Inisherin. This was like Shakespearean tragedy. Loved it the whole way through. Colin Farrell is fantastic. He's one of those guys I just, for a long time, I think a lot of us just kind of were maybe, or maybe I was just late to the party on Colin Farrell. I just kind of never took him seriously as an actor, even though I loved him in New World. I've loved him, I loved him in that Batman movie that just came out. Uh, but he is just phenomenal here, and Brendan Gleeson is so good as well. This movie, start to finish, the cinematography is fantastic. It's a beautiful movie. The acting is all really great in it. Is the word Schadenfreude? Schadenfreude, is that where
Schadenfreude or
what do you
Schadenfreude?
enjoy
Yeah.
watching other? I was thinking while you were talking, maybe that's what you're into. You just like seeing people suffer, Lance.
That's, I, well, Kenny, I might enjoy watching some people suffer. I'm not going to deny that. I think that I think maybe just my general cynical and gloomy outlook on humanity is reflected in these films,
Yeah,
and how rare happy endings really are, and how awful humans are just in general. So all three of those movies had the awfulness of humanity on display in spades. So,
yeah,
but I would say probably Triangle of Sadness is probably the most cynical, and it certainly was the most controversial. A lot of reviews don't really jibe with Ruben Ostlund's brand of cynicism, where he just does seem to be straight up contemptuous of humanity and of people, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of love or empathy for his characters, which I can understand why people would not want to watch that. And maybe that's why it's not. I personally love it, and I feel like there's a little bit of ironic distance, which makes it a little more palatable when I love with his movies, and I love all of his movies. Um, but Banshees of Inisherin does have that extra dollop of humanizing, where you care about these characters even as you see them be totally awful to themselves and each other, and it's also just so beautifully shot, and there's just and it has amazing sweaters too. Let's not forget about the
amazing
sweaters.
sweaters.
Yeah, beautiful sweaters all around by everybody. But
This is a movie. Banshees of Inisherin is a movie I could see myself coming back to again. Like, it's a movie right after you watch it, I'm like, oh, I want to watch that again for sure in the future. It's a tough movie to get through for people at home who haven't watched it. It's a friendship dissolves, and there's a situation where one of the friends just tells the other one that, hey, if you try to talk to me, I'm gonna start cutting my own fingers off. And it's a rough movie. It can be a little rough, but
fingers are thrown
fingers are
and
thrown.
worse. We'll just
It's
leave it at
a
that.
heartfelt movie too. It's very, by the end, you're very. I'm drawn to movies that emotionally connect with me. So just since while you're talking about Triangle of Sadness, which is near the bottom of my list of movies, uh, Triangle of Sadness didn't emotionally connect with me in any way. It was a bunch of characters that I don't, it's a bunch of billionaires on a yacht. And, I'm there for the comedy. It felt very Lars von Trier to me. And like, it's just trying, like, it's not a fan of the audience. It's kind of testing the audience, especially with the whole middle section on the boat where there's people throwing up. Watch the trailer, folks. It's right in there. There's people throwing up. They're sliding around in it. Toilets are overflowing. It's very disgusting. But I respect the craftsmanship of it. I think
it's
it
the
deserves
collapse of their little civilization. But sorry, sorry
Yeah,
for continue.
it's
No.
this is one of those movies that I feel like you would need to sit down with friends afterwards and really just talk about it. Like, it's hard to just watch this by yourself and leave it and be like, well, I understood that one. This is an Avatar. You're not walking like Avatar. You walk out of, you're like, I understood that movie. Now I'm gonna go get something to eat. Triangle of Sadness. You finish it and you're like,
I find it, I don't know what it is, but I find his movies so immensely satisfying. I'm also a big Lars von Trier fan too. So I don't know, it's like, I just am drawn to Scandinavian directors. I don't know what it is, but I found it to be so fascinating. And yeah, it was definitely very on the nose with the metaphors. It doesn't really get much more on the nose than that, but to see the tables turn and to see the person who is to see the social hierarchy invert when they get on the island was a joy to watch for me. And I don't know, I found it immensely entertaining, but I definitely understand why people would not like this movie. Again, he has a lot of, he doesn't really love his characters, and he doesn't really seem to. He watches them from a distance and sort of. If we're since you brought up Schadenfreude, I would definitely say Triangle of Sadness is a Schadenfreude movie. I wouldn't say Banshees of Inisherin is. Tar is an interesting, another of those three that I think are similar in that way. Is maybe yes and no, because you're definitely inhabiting her mind the whole time that you're I mean, she is the focus of the movie. You're definitely identifying with her, but you're also seeing her doing awful things, and there is some satisfaction I felt in seeing her kind of get her comeuppance at the end.
I thought Kate Blanchett was just phenomenal in this movie. And I've seen reviews and things where people are like, "Oh, she, wasn't that as good," or something. I'm like, Did you even watch the same movie as me? She's, not a. I don't want to say she carries the movie because the movie is great on its own, but she is just unbelievable. Like, she's doing acting on a different level. Like, there's not a lot of people you could put into that character and get the same kind of performance out of as Kate Blanchett does here. It's just a joy to watch, and there's so much nuance in everything she does. This is number 3 for me of the 10. This one's right up there.
So we landed on a symmetry, a crossover. We're both at number 3 with Tar. Okay.
We've come to an agreement.
Yeah.
Tar number 3 here. I'm just trying to see. I wrote a couple of little notes. This isn't like Hitchcock, folks, where we do deep dives in this. I've seen each of these movies precisely once, some of them a while ago. So there's a little bit of remembering going on here. But I'm also just checking what I put in my Letterboxd review. Yeah, that's basically it. I think Kate Blanchett for the award for this movie too, for Best Actress. It's just,
there were times I felt like her performance seemed artificial. I mean, I guess that's a weird thing to say but I wasn't. It was a deliberate. So she's trying to project a character who is. She's projecting a. I guess that's as a person who is a public persona.
Mm-hmm.
She is projecting a public persona, and she has that public persona always on. And there are people that are close to her that see this other side to her, and and eventually wind up detesting her when they see who she really is, and even sometimes the public persona is detested, like when she gets into a fight with that student. And I wasn't sure sometimes when I watched it, like if she was pulling it off, but I don't know. Like, on the other hand, it could be that that's exactly by design, that she's creating this mask slips periodically, and if that's the case, then yeah, that's even more incredible. That she was able to kind of dial in the performance to that level. And
Yeah,
hearing you
she's
talk
playing
about
a
it,
character.
maybe
She has so much subsurface stuff going on. Like, she's this public persona. She's this famous conductor, and she's used to being in front of the news, and she, lording it over kind of employees or her underlings. But like, so a lot of she doesn't really have a confidant in the movie where she's like telling you what her inner dialogue is. So you're just picking it up as the movie goes along, and that's strong acting to have that to like the as you turn throughout the movie and start to be like, wait, she's not a good person, it's because it starts out you want to like her, she's doing that
right.
interview at the beginning. She seems so smart, well educated. That classroom sequence you talked about was apparently all like one take too. I read that in a review or something somewhere.
Really. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like this movie a lot, and I felt that I don't know. I was reading an article like a review by Richard Brody. I think it was the New Yorker critic,
Mhm.
and I was like, did we even watch the same movie? Because he just torched this film, and I felt it wasn't really fair because it was there was a I mean, this is a very nuanced movie, and there's something maybe to offend everyone, which I always feel like is maybe a good thing.
Mhm.
I don't feel like it was, as some people saying, a direct assault on woke, culture or whatever. It definitely has a critique of that, but the flip side of that is that she was a poster child for, for Me Too, and she winds up, abusing her power in the way that so many other powerful people have abused their power, and she winds up getting her comeuppance. And so I don't. So yeah, is it ambiguous? Is it contradictory? Is it nuanced? I don't know. I've felt it was all those things, and I was comfortable with that sort of
Yeah.
ambiguity. I like films that challenge but don't necessarily spoon feed me the moral lesson that they want to give.
Yeah, and I think it's unique in the. I don't. Yeah, there's a lot of people jumping it down, or I know there was like some famous conductor had come out and said that it was bad, or someone was saying because of her gender it looked bad. Or I feel like her gender is kind of inconsequential. It's a sexual predator who's using power, and I feel like you see it, and it doesn't. You see anyone in that position could if they were of that persuasion, do what she's doing. And you probably know people in the back of your head that want to be like that, like it feels like a very real person and an awful person. And it's the thing we all,
Well, she has redeeming qualities too.
well,
That's the thing.
she's a real
She's a
artist.
complex person, with some very awful traits,
Yeah.
and some like shockingly awful traits. But is she a monster? I don't know. That's the thing. That's why I find this movie so interesting, because it doesn't really, you can kind of take away from it what you want. Or she certainly exhibits monstrous behaviors. She also is, incredibly accomplished artist, and so again, that's another sort of theme that gets explored do you, if a famous artist does something heinous, can you still uh,
Respect the
love the
art.
work? I know we've had these debates before with Woody Allen, and I know you'll never watch a Woody Allen movie, and I respect
Never
that.
have, never seen
Um,
one.
but
At this point, it's just because I haven't seen one. It's now if I watch one, it's like I broke that unwritten rule I made like 25 years ago.
yeah,
So
well, you got to
it's
have rules, Kenny.
Let's
You gotta
jump
live by
to
the
my pick for best picture. We got your top three. We're going to jump to
yeah.
my pick, which is going to be a lot of people's picks for best picture, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is the first of the 10 that I saw, and I saw a while back, so my memory is going to be a little bit more fuzzy on this. But the thing that this movie did for me watching it was it I went into this movie expecting to not like it. I am sick to death of multiverse stories and all that. I feel like you watch the MCU television shows to be caught up. Like you're like, all right, I gotta watch this. I gotta watch Loki, and now I gotta watch Captain America, and I gotta watch them all and know where it's going. So then you get this movie, you're like another multiverse movie, and I don't even know these characters. I don't want to jump in. Totally wrong. This movie totally threw me with how great it is. The acting, fantastic. And what this movie does that's fantastic is it presents concepts and it presents them hilariously. Like you're just like, oh, this is just stupid, funny. Okay. And then like 20 minutes later, they come back to that concept again. And now it's devastatingly sad. And I will straight up admit I was crying a lot, like towards the end of this movie. And the person I'm with is like, what is going on? I'm just like, I don't know why. I can't even explain why I'm crying. It just felt so true to me what was happening in the movie, particularly particularly her relationship with her husband, which is a lot of the movie is it's kind of on the rocks due to her personality. Her husband is played by again, guys, I don't have all the names and everything ready for this. He played Data in the Goonies movies. Guy's fantastic. He's vanishes for like 25 years, comes back, knocks it out of the park. You're like, I wish what did we miss with you in all this time? Because so good. But their relationship is kind of the crux of it. But it goes into these side tangents. There's a Ratatouille joke that this will be my example. Like there's a Ratatouille joke. They give you the comedy part, and you're like, okay, that's kind of funny, I guess. And then they come back to it later, and it's so, oh my God, you're like, oh, my heart's breaking during this scene. I think the editing in this movie is outrageous. It's so good. This movie, I feel like if I were directing, I'd be having panic attacks all the time because you're like, how are we making all these different things, tangled webs tie together? I think this is just something really special, like a once in a long time movie. This is definitely a movie I will come back to and watch again later. Jamie Lee Curtis, great as this weird kind of villain character in it. I don't know. I'm not hearing let's hear the rebuttal, Lance.
I don't really have a rebuttal. I feel like when I watch this movie, I feel like I need to watch this movie again, to be honest. Because there was nothing about it that was off, like, maybe other movies that I have seen this year that were interesting but off, like Babylon, for example. That one just didn't work for me. But there was nothing. I think maybe I was just in a bad mood. so I feel like I really shouldn't even be judging this movie. But I felt like it didn't engage me the way that certainly the ones at the top of my list did. Maybe I didn't give it a careful enough viewing, and maybe my expectations were really high. Based on the hype around it and what you had told me. So
I was
maybe
just thinking that. I think I set you up to fail on that. I was
right.
telling
Don't
everyone.
Blame yourself, Kenny.
I saw it in the theater, and I told everyone, I'm like, you have to see this movie. You have to go to the movies and see it. It's fantastic. And I think I remember now. Yeah, I think you came back and were like, no.
It's not that I didn't think it was a bad movie. It just didn't. It didn't reel me in the way that there was a lot of interesting. It was very funny. There was a lot of hilarious moments to it, and there was certainly some touching moments. But I didn't get pulled into the emotional moments quite as much. And maybe it's just again, see my top three and understand where my psyche is at, and maybe why it didn't resonate with this movie as much.
Yeah, you didn't go with the positive movie.
Yeah, it's like, there's a happy ending.
No
But
happy endings.
but yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis was fantastic. Michelle Yeoh. I mean, this was a great movie. I definitely would agree with you there. It just didn't knock my socks off the way maybe I was expecting or was prepared to have my to be sockless. But I don't. But yeah, I mean, it is a very unique movie and has a lot of really outstanding. And it's kind of incredible that a movie like that became so popular because it is so bizarre. You know, it's not the sort of thing that typically resonates with large audiences. So
There's
you
a
know,
wide contingent of people who are outwardly outspoken about how they didn't like this movie one bit. First of all, like if you just quit, if you hated this movie completely, like we're probably never going to be good friends. Like we'll be acquaintances, but we're never going to be great friends. You have to at least I even we've learned from doing the Hitchcock project that we watch these movies, like some of these early ones, and we're like, oh, that was a stinker. But then the more you watch it, you see the craftsmanship and you see like what's good in it, and you kind of appreciate it in a different way. And I feel, the old me from maybe 5, 10 years ago might have been like, Avatar 2, this is hot garbage, no way. But like now, if you kind of step back and be a little analytical and be like, what is this movie about? What are the people that made it? There's something, even if the movie's kind of is a little garbagey, and Avatar 2 is not garbage. I don't think any of these 10 deserve to not be here.
well, maybe not Best Picture. I think they're all. I think they're all. I think we were going to get to this too. Maybe we're jumping the
Yeah.
gun, but I think they're all. Um, I mean, like I said, I liked and or admired, in some way, all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there was several that maybe just weren't should not have been in the Best Picture. But
Well,
that's whatever. That's
well,
just
let's
my.
move on. I'm going to jump to my least favorite movie. The
All
one
right,
that
let's
I
do
think,
it.
the one that
I'm
I would
excited because I
sub
knew
out.
everything everywhere all at once was going to be your favorite. That was a foregone
Yeah.
conclusion. But I have no idea what your least favorite is, and I am
All right.
on
We're going
pins
to
and
jump to
needles.
my least favorite. This is the one that I feel like there's a lot of other 2022 movies I would rather put up here. I loved Broker. I liked Nope. I think RRR maybe over this one, and that is Elvis. This movie, I went in wanting to like it, just like any other movie, and you try to respect craftsmanship, but deep down, I know I'm not a fan of Baz Luhrmann. I'm not a fan of the style of directing. I like acting. I'm a theater guy. This movie had very few scenes. After a while, I was trying to count them. I'm like, how many scenes go on for more than a few minutes where characters are actually talking? It felt like a Wikipedia article set to like the old MTV style. Like we're gonna pump graphics. We're gonna like do these quick edits. Someone says a cool line. He says, "Hey, I'm Elvis," and then cut to something else. Tom Hanks is doing this really weird accent that probably is totally historically accurate, but at the same time, it's also totally annoying and taking you out of the
Well,
movie.
it's annoying, and you look at him in the prosthetics and the fat suit, and the whole. I mean, granted, the whole movie is very artificial by design. It's just, but that's the sort of artificiality that just like I was distracted by Tom Hanks' performance by looking at his at at how he looked. It was that was not that did not work at all for me. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue, Kenny.
Yeah,
You're
so
right.
this movie, everyone's again. I don't have all these actors' names memorized. The fellow who played Elvis, I think he did a
Austin
great job.
Butler.
Austin Butler, I think he did
Yeah.
a great job. But you
Yeah.
know what? I think Val Kilmer was like an amazing Jim Morrison. Did he win the Oscar? I don't know. What he did here feels a little bit like what Johnny Depp's been doing this whole career. He kind of put on a costume, dressed up like a guy, did a great job at it, but it still feels more like dress up, especially like compare it to Kate Blanchett and Tar, where you're like, this is acting, and then you're like, and again, I don't want to say like that he's not acting. He's doing this movie deserves to be here. There are people that love this style of filmmaking. I just feel like he didn't have an opportunity to really act in a way that like I am interested in. You know?
So I would say that he was the standout of the movie.
Mm,
I like, well, he was what made the movie palatable for me. I really thought he was pretty terrific. but I would agree with you. I don't like Baz. I'm not a big Baz Luhrmann fan either. Tom Hanks was just distracting. You know, I'm sure there's a million of other actors who could have played that role better and more, you know, more realistically. And that's no knock on Tom Hanks. I just felt like it was a it was a he was miscast, you know, physically and the sometimes I mean Brendan Fraser, you know, obviously had prosthetics and is able to pull it off for whatever reason. I don't think you know Tom Hanks did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with you. It was kind of it's like a big Technicolor, you know, psychedelic, you know, vomit mess. And there were I would say that I kind of it's a good story, and I think it's a story that needs to be told.
Mm.
But I wish it had been another director that told it. You know, it was this highly stylized, you know, thing that he goes for. It was just too much for me. There are elements, there are times when I'm like, okay, that's, you know, certainly I think again, this is sort of goes to Austin Butler. Like when I think about these highly stylized images, it often just goes to him kind of with that sulky Elvis look. That I would actually say that's a confluence where Austin Butler and Elvis's style and Baz Luhrmann actually worked.
Hmm.
You know, and you can see why, you know, Elvis in his later career, you know, bedazzled in rhinestones and, you know, the jacked up collar. Um, you can see how that is like right up Baz Luhrmann's alley. So you can see how he might be the kind of director for that. But I still think if he had just dialed it back a little bit, let the opulence kind of show through naturally rather than forcing it, which is what I always feel like all his movies do. It's very contrived and forced. He doesn't just allow the sort of opulence to show itself.
Yeah, I'm like, let some of these scenes breathe a little bit. Sort
Yeah,
of. My favorite scenes are definitely like Elvis and Priscilla. Those were the scenes like when I'm keeping tallies. I'm like, okay, these scenes are going on. Like they're having interactions. I'm
right.
connecting with these characters a little bit. You know, and then it's like the Tom Hanks stuff almost feels like a different movie. You're just okay. Now I'm in Tom Hanks at fat again. Bring us back to Elvis. You know, I want to see more scenes with him with his mom. I want to see more scenes. I want to connect with him because the movie leaves you with this feeling like Elvis was duped, like Elvis signed up with this Charlotte, this snake oil salesman, and he just let that guy railroad his career. You know, and part of me is like, I don't feel bad for Elvis. He made a, you know, ton of money. He's world famous, and he chose that guy, and he stayed with that guy. And you
He
know, that guy
chose
was
and
that guy when he met him. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
I mean, it's you. There's definitely a case to be a strong. You know, it's an interesting thing, and we'll never know. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
not from
It's
this movie, we won't know.
no, no, right, not with this movie, but they also there's also a case to be made that he just loved what he was doing so much in Vegas, and
Mhm.
that's sort of what the movie was implying was that he loved he just got addicted in the same way that he was addicted to pills. He was addicted to the audience adoration, and the audiences that were brought there to Vegas to watch him just adored him. They were like the most hardcore Elvis fans. Um, and yes, should he, you know, would his career have been different? Would he have been different if he had actually gone to Europe? I mean, it's entirely possible. Who knows? But you can just say this. It's kind of crazy that this milieu of Vegas mixed with Elvis, mixed with
Yeah.
America at the time, you know, it just sort of created this incredible spectacle of who Elvis was, and which to me is kind of comical. I'm not going to lie. I think most people think that's, you know, the Elvis themed weddings or whatever. There's an element of that extreme Elvis appearance that's kind of absurd.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, again, like I think so many other directors could have done better, more justice to this story.
Yeah, it just made me want to watch a documentary on Elvis after I finish. All right, let me hear the real story now. Let's move on to a different movie. What was your probably least? What would you put towards the bottom of your list for your 10?
Well, Kenny, I haven't seen Avatar. I have a
Well,
feeling
Or leave
That might
Avatar
be
out.
on the bottom of my list, but I am gonna make an effort. Just we'll see how it goes. But I think it is playing locally, so I might go hop off into the theater and watch it
You
in
should.
the way that it should be seen. So I'm gonna withhold judgment on that. But but I would definitely say if it wasn't that one, it would be Top Gun Maverick.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, let's talk about this one then. Towards the bottom. Go.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was so for all I was trashing Elvis and Baz Luhrmann's directing, I felt like it was in its own way at least an original and unique take and challenging in some ways. And definitely thematically interesting. I'll just say I did, like I said, I did like Elvis. So it was not perfect. But getting back to Top Gun, this movie was just a classic Hollywood blockbuster with a lot of what I felt were hitting all the dramatic notes in a very I don't want to say generic. I'm not sure what term to use here, but it was a well done, well executed Tom Cruise mega blockbuster, which kind of left me feeling numb. When I left the theater, it almost instantly vanished from my mind. Um,
I
and
see.
uh, and
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum on this one. I'm going to come out with this movie was fantastic. I loved.
wow,
I saw this with my parents, so I should preface that. You go into a movie with your parents, and you're like, oh boy, I hope this one. I hope they like this movie, and they loved this movie. I think they did. Mom and Dad, if you're watching, if you hated this movie, just tell
I
me
think
afterwards.
everybody loved this movie,
Yeah,
but uh,
I
and
love
it,
this movie more than the first Top. I didn't even like the first Top Gun as a kid. I was just like, I'm not into that. The riding motorcycles, leather jackets, that's not my thing at all. I'm a theater kid. I'm an art kid. I'm not interested in the cool guy thing.
but you were on board for this one.
I was on
Like
board for this
sign
one.
me up for the Navy.
This one, yeah, well, that's true. It is a sign you up for the Air Force kind of a movie. But
Navy.
is it Navy, Air Force, whatever? They want. I'm just thinking planes. We're flying planes.
Yeah, I mean he was a Navy pilot, right? But yeah, unless he switched to the Air Force, and I just somehow missed that, because there's a lot of stuff that's hyper unrealistic with this whole movie, obviously too, which I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't care about that stuff, but when you start sort of approaching, I mean, Star Wars, obviously, space battles completely unrealistic, but you can just roll with it because there's no attempt to ground it in reality and factual, actual things that exist here in our reality. But the movie just doesn't really care about that. So, and maybe I shouldn't care about it, but if I found it kind of annoying and off-putting, like the
It's trying
whole
to offend the least amount of people. This movie, it's like the bad guys are just guys in black. They're like,
they're
what
just
country are they?
generic,
Don't
yeah,
ask.
yeah, and I would say the CGI was absolutely staggeringly good. Like I'll give it that. Like it was so realistic in so many ways. And obviously they also didn't rely on CGI a lot, like where they actually had a camera where the actors were in the plane, um, and they were performing aerial acrobatics with the pilot in front. They were filming the actors. So that was pretty. That was impressive. I mean, it's an impressive movie any way you look at it. Again, so I certainly admire it. I just didn't. I felt like
Connect
the
with you.
story was just kind of a paint by numbers kind of affair, and I don't. Tom Cruise, whatever. I don't really understand the appeal.
Tom Cruise, whatever.
He's certainly been in some great movies. He was my favorite, of course, is in Tropic Thunder.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is
You
was
like him when he does the
when
off-brand
he's
stuff like
right,
Magnolia or
right, Les Grossman or whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
But again, and that's not even a knock on him. It just feels like it feels like getting cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah,
It's not a bad cheesecake. It's just not special.
I look at it. See, I look at it the way I look at Little House on the Prairie. Like Little House on the Prairie was a show I hated as a kid. I hated it. It came on, and you like turn it off. The credits come on. It came on after something, A Team or something. You're like, okay, TV's done. But now as an adult, I love. Yeah, is it just the cheesecake? Yeah, but it's done perfect. It is what it is, and it's really well done. Yes, is Top Gun breaking any like narrative story? It's doing everything by the book. It's paint by numbers, but it's perfect. It's like they hit every beat, and they kind of make it feel a little different. It doesn't feel totally like the first movie, but there's a lot of nostalgia that they're building on it. And Tom Cruise, for whatever people may think of this guy's like a modern day Buster Keaton, or with the way he does his stunts and the way he puts himself into these movies. I mean, he's not like horrible like Kate Blanchett's character in Tar, like, but he's got some questionable things as a human outside of him being an actor. But as an actor, I think he's really underrated. People kind of look at him as this action guy, and he does what he does. Again, he is the cheesecake. It's perfect cheesecake. It's the most delicious kind you wanted. It's got that graham cracker crust.
It's not the most delicious kind you wanted. It's the best cheesecake you can get at Cheesecake Factory.
I don't want to be surprised.
Where they're just
Factory.
Where they're
give me
just
the
like,
stuff.
pooping out cheesecake. That's quality cheesecake, but it's still just factory cheesecake, and this felt like a factory film to me.
Top Gun Maverick, pooping out cheesecake.
Right. It's like it is the Cheesecake Factory of movies. But again, there is cheesecake. If I had a cheesecake, a slice of cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory, I would house that thing here right now, and I would enjoy it immensely. So yeah, I did not like it. I just didn't love it. It's funny when I contrast it. We were talking about other movies, and I'm of course blanking on the name. What is the TV series on PBS with the English aristocrats? Come on, help me out here, Kenny.
Yeah, I know exactly. Maggie, what's the heck is? I know.
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
So
I said it first.
that same weekend, and I happened to watch these movies on the same weekend when I was visiting my parents, and I watched the new Downton Abbey, and I found that movie to be so immensely entertaining. However, and I don't think it's nominated for anything, but I was thoroughly, that movie, wrapped me up, and I felt like it certainly belonged, and it was also kind of in a way a movie about movies. I don't know if you saw it, but I highly recommend it.
I will watch.
I am a sucker for those kinds of. I'm a sucker for Downton Abbey in general, I will admit.
That's something I would like to get into. I know nothing about it, so that's something I'd like to start fresh on.
So yeah, I'm just the whole point of that was that in contrast to them, two summer movies, but I've was engrossed and thoroughly enjoyed and was sad to leave Downton Abbey when I got out of it. Whereas Top Gun, I felt a little bit exhausted and was just kind of like meh when I left the theater and instantly forgot about it.
I loved it, but my caveat, I will say, since we're talking about the Oscars right now, this kind of is it's in like that Avatar group though, of like where I was saying like summer popcorn movies like that. You can love these movies, but do they feel like they're like it's a movie I want to see Oscar winning Top Gun Maverick? It doesn't feel right to me. There's just something that feels, because no matter how good it is and what it does, it just doesn't have that, like a Kubrick movie or something like that, where I'm like, this is like the real.
Well, it's sort of like, it's like, is it highbrow?
It's trying to entertain. It's not.
Is it highbrow? Is it middle brow? These are all the sort of internal questions of, but I feel like a good movie, like I feel like an Academy Award movie should challenge the audience in some ways and should kind of push the boundary of filmmaking, right? Ideally. And I don't think the Top Gun, Maverick does that at all. I just don't feel like it is a, and I would agree. Top Gun Maverick, they can be perfectly good movies. Any of the Marvel movies, I've certainly enjoyed several of those, not all of them, but any number of big budget Hollywood blockbuster summer movies can be enjoyable and can be extremely well crafted and well acted, but I feel like to be an Academy, like to be something that would be an Academy Award winner or even a nominee, it should be challenging, a little bit challenging, and it should push film forward. It should push, you know, new ideas, new filmmaking techniques, a lot of new.
Something
It
that
should, it
feels
should yeah.
innovative for the time. Where moving from that, where you kind of see it represents the place and time, but it also feels like people are gonna build things off of this movie. Like this movie's gonna inspire filmmakers to do other things. I don't think Top Gun's inspiring filmmakers. It might inspire you to join the Navy. It might inspire you to you know I don't know, go out and have a party afterwards. I don't know, your adrenaline's up, but yeah, let's move on to something. Let's go on the flip side of the coin, because now we got a few movies left and I want to get to them. I'm going to totally flip this coin and go to Women Talking.
Yes.
Not an action movie, first of all. Not a summer popcorn movie.
I would not, doesn't, you wouldn't classically define it as that. Definitely not a summer popcorn, and definitely challenging.
Yes. This movie, I felt, it's funny because we've been doing with Hitchcock, with the Hitchcock show that we do. Links are somewhere. People watch our Hitchcock show. He does a lot of plays. We see a lot of silent movies, and they're like taking plays and translating them. And I guess Women Talking was a play. If I'm,
It was a novel.
Was it a novel
It was
and
a
a play,
novel,
or
yeah.
just a novel?
I don't think it was ever a play. I'm not
It feels
sure.
like a play. That's kind of where, again, I did no research on these things, people. So maybe it's just a novel adapted by Sarah Polley, directed by Sarah Polley. But it feels okay. So it's a different media translated to this media, and I feel like while I'm invested in the story, the cinematography is great. I feel like it doesn't rise to anything more than just, this was a really good movie. This was a solid movie. The subject matter is very tough to deal with. I don't have a lot of criticisms of it. It's just not my bag. This movie just wasn't. Yeah, and I feel like I'm gonna get hate for saying that. But this movie just wasn't. It wasn't my thing.
Two middle-aged white guys aren't interested
Yeah,
in
two middle-aged
talking.
white guys.
Shocking. Yeah. No,
It's called Women Talking. They don't want to hear from me.
yeah, we should just shut up now. We should just
should
like, we
shut
shouldn't
up.
even be discussing this movie, but
we're
but
doing this show, so we have to talk about it.
yeah, we have to. But sorry, audience, we have to.
Sorry.
But it was a it had definitely had a strong message. It was a movie with something to say, and it had some really fantastic performances, I thought. It was a little, the dialogue was sometimes, I don't know, like a bit abstract, where it feels like you were saying like a play.
Yeah.
And it feels a little, it at times felt a little, I don't know, self-consciously like trying to be an art movie vibe. I don't know if you picked up on that. It seemed a little stagey and a little like I'm like trying to be an important sounding movie, but it was an incredible story, and it was in many ways very riveting, and I really enjoyed it. I would put it like maybe I want to say that's probably my fourth. Maybe I would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I really need to go back and watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, but
where is that on your list? Is that like number 8 or something?
It was number 5. It would be number 5. It's in the top 5. So,
right, so
take heart, Kenny.
Women Talking, I will also say, like, it has one of those, one of the things I noticed in a lot of movies I watched this year is influences of movie history and other directors. And it's weird because we grew up on some of these directors, seeing them, and I felt like Terrence Malick, like that name's coming into my head.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, it definitely kind of had a Days of what was it, Days
Yeah,
of
these long nature kind of cutaways, like when the women
yeah.
aren't talking, when we're outside and we're kind of like just seeing the world they live in, and you're seeing like grass and you're seeing like the
That's very
animals.
interesting. That's a good observation. And that's probably why I was picking up on like feeling like, I feel like I've seen this before. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's like,
no.
and I like
Definitely
that.
a strong Terrence Malick vibe.
That's
Um,
why I felt like that and a play, because like you said, the dialogue definitely felt very flowery to a point where, okay, this isn't totally natural, but I get what the effect. They're trying to get these messages out, and it is a powerful movie. It's looked beautiful. I wish Frances McDormand were in it a little more. I felt like that trailer tricked me. I'm like, oh, Frances McDormand's gonna do something in this
right.
movie.
I know. I noticed that too. She was kind of like, she was an auxiliary character,
Yeah,
really.
she's in the beginning scene, and then she's like, well, I'm out. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Like
And then
we
she's
pop
there
back
for
in and
like
we're,
2 more
totally
minutes in
done.
another scene, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then
Uh
her daughters leave her behind.
yeah, I thought this was a great movie. It deserves to be in the top 10. It's right around, if I had to put it in a spot, I'd probably put it at one, two, three, four. It's probably at six for me on this. So it's just outside the top five. Um, but it's a good movie. It's just not, this movie just wasn't, it's not a movie I probably would have sought out on my own. It's maybe if someone were like, hey, we should go see this, then I would have. But I'm not going to probably, I did it for this show. And I'm glad I did. Let's move on to other movies. Let me go to, okay, one, two. Let's jump to this one. This one's getting a lot of talk right now. And there are a lot of people who think this one could win Best Picture. This is a Netflix movie. All Quiet on the Western Front. What do you think?
Yeah. Not best movie.
Best
But
movie?
an interesting movie. I was engaged, and I certainly enjoyed it, and it certainly, was an effective bit of, anti-war cinema because it was I think about the early scenes where, and I'm kind of like, you probably heard Sam and I discuss ad nauseum. We're kind of like a World War One, World War Two, geek
Buffs.
because I'm a middle-aged man, but. Um, it is to watch these guys, all these young men, all gung ho, and then go to the front and just very, very quickly get disabused of disillusioned, and discovering everything they've been told was a lie, and then it's almost at that point their innocence is gone, and then they still have to trudge through and somehow survive. It was a very tough movie, I thought, to watch, and um,
Had you
you
read the
know.
book, All Quiet on the Western Front?
I didn't read the book, and I want to now.
Okay.
So I haven't really. I don't know what the negative criticisms were, other than like some, idiocy from Fox News or whatever. I certainly, I thought it was a very effective, you know, piece
Anti-war movie.
of cinema. And it was very grim. But I've, watched a lot of war movies, and it's. I wouldn't put it up there as one of my favorites. I
Yeah.
think I would have to put Paths of Glory above this, for World War One movies. But yeah, what did you think?
Yeah. I, it's funny. This is almost in that women talking. This is not probably a movie for me. I wanted it to be for me, I think, going in, because I like war movies as well. I'm not a big history buff on war like maybe you and Sam are, but I hadn't read the book, so I didn't really know anything going in. I thought it looked great. The acting was really good. I didn't really connect too much with these characters. You have the typical, okay, these are our protagonists and I'm following them. I've seen a million anti-war movies at this point, like you said, like something like Paths of Glory or, some Full Metal Jacket, or like these movies are like great. And, you're like, okay, another one of these. It just, I don't know. I just kind of felt a little at the end, kind of cold about it. Just, it's a good movie. It was shocking. It was sad seeing everything. It had a very, tragic ending, which I'm sure you enjoyed. Not a happy ending movie.
I was not. You know what though? I was not. That was. Those are the sorts of. Don't get me wrong. There has to be a little bit of ironic distance. I'm not a monster, Kenny. But there. But there,
Sorry to paint you as one.
the movies are good at sort of keeping a little bit of ironic. But there's nothing you don't. I certainly don't feel like this character. It was a very sad and tragic, without giving any I mean, come on, it's World War One. There are no happy stories, no happy endings from that. It's an utterly brutal conflict, and I think it, in many ways, captured that. But it didn't. I don't know. I think I'm with you. I'm not really sure why it didn't quite resonate with me the way that other, war movies have. But I still enjoyed it, and I still thought, again, I still admired. I thought it was a solid film. It didn't rock me to the core the way that some other movies similar to it
Yeah,
have.
like most of these movies, there's some fantastic sequences in here where you're just like, wow, how did they shoot this? Like these battle scenes in the trenches are just like unbelievable. And it's there's a lot of points where I'm like, this is a fantastic movie, but I'm just not. I don't know. Maybe it's cynicism. Maybe it's just kind of I know what an anti-war movie is. I know what this movie's trying to do. I'm
We're jaded.
already don't like war. I get it. You have to explain it to me. I think
Well,
most of us at
the
this
thing
point are
is,
like,
I mean, it certainly was an anti. I guess the book was certainly regarded as an anti-war book specifically, and you certainly. But I mean, it's hard. How could you be pro World War One? I mean, like when they say it, it's like you're taking sides on, is it okay to, uh, you know, however many millions of people were killed, and the horrors of trench warfare, and a whole generation of youth, of young men wiped out. Nobody's for that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like,
No,
let's just, if you are,
I'm on your
you're
side
out to
before.
lunch. You're just insane. But I mean, as a realistic, I think it just sort of becomes an anti-war movie, just showing it naturally. Just showing what happened. There's no way you can look at what happened in World War One and say, "Oh, that looks fun."
Yeah.
It was an utterly brutal, awful conflict. So it is like most wars are. So
Yeah, these movies are the cream of the crop. They're all up here for a reason. I will say, even though I trashed on Elvis, like I don't think any of these are bad movies. Like if you my letterbox, like I was showing it to a friend, like because I've been watching all Oscar movies, and they were like, you skew positive on like everything. Like, well, I'm watching movies that people agree are good. I'm not going out and looking for tough stuff right now. So I mean, I think it's a great movie. If it wins Best Picture, am I going to be upset? No, I'll be like, okay, I get why people like it. Uh, we're not here to be. I don't want to play politics and be like, this should win, this shouldn't win. For me, it's
I
everything
don't think
everywhere all at
I
once.
don't think this is. If you're just asking my opinion, which you're not, but I'm going to give it anyway. I don't
Give
think
it,
if I were, Bob Oscar, that's his name, right? If I were
Bob
Bob
Oscar. Yeah.
Oscar, I would not be nominating this. I would not be awarding this my, trophy.
All right. Well, I saved. I think
Anyway,
we're at the last one. I think we're at the last one.
all
I
right,
saved this one for
Fablemans,
potential
yeah,
big war.
yeah.
The Fablemans, Steven Spielberg. I don't want to say it's his return because he hasn't really been away or anything, but I haven't watched a Steven Spielberg movie in a long time. Like I am not caught up on Steven Spielberg in the last like 10 years. I
You
was
haven't missed
surprised to
anything.
like this. I was surprised to like this movie. There are things I didn't like. There are things I did like. I think if this movie had been, this is Steven Spielberg's life growing up, because I heard that this is partially autobiographical. Those are the elements I'm interested in. I feel like the weird things in this movie feel like the real things.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I dated he's Jewish and he dated an extremely Catholic girl. That feels like, okay, I bet that really happened. Or I met John Ford, the
Right.
director, and had this interesting interaction. That feels like, yeah, that probably really happened. Or I learned how to film on these types of cameras. And okay, the
Yeah,
stuff that
there's a lot of stuff in this movie. You're right, that sort of has the ring of truth to it as an autobiographical movie,
yeah.
um, but still very,
But the stuff with the bullies,
still
that's
very
like
dramatic.
classic Spielberg garbage. Like, oh, I showed the bullies by making a movie about them, and I made him like upset in a hall. Like, that feels
The
like
power of film. Right.
not real. Like, oh,
I
I see
vanquished
you
my bullies.
squint. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
that
no, I mean, I thought there was a lot of pretty strong performances. I really like Paul Dano as his dad. Um,
Paul Dano's always enjoyable.
yeah, yeah, and his mother, and it was an interesting, and this sort of dramatic twist, with this sort of relationship with his mother and father and the best friend. That was interesting, but again, I don't think this was a particularly great movie. I think it was a solid movie. I don't. I think it would be one of the ones that I don't necessarily think should be, in the as a best picture nominee. I think it's a good movie.
This is
I
a
enjoyed it.
movie when we talked about Top Gun, and we said like when you leave Top Gun, you're not like, well, I'm gonna go make great cinema. This is a movie though that when you watch this, film students are gonna love this movie because he's showing you every time he gets this new upgrade in camera. It's like in a video game, like he upgrades to the next camera, and then they show you what the camera looks like, how he's editing it. It's almost like in the background of this movie, he's teaching you how movies were made historically leading up to kind of more close to the present, not the
Yeah,
present.
no, that's a good point. And there's a lot of I enjoyed like immensely watching, sort of getting into the nitty gritty of that,
Yeah.
because I certainly remember like, I'm obviously a lot younger than Steven Spielberg, but I was kind of at the very tail end of film when it was a thing in Super 8 cameras, and there's a very nostalgic vibe, that I felt with watching all of that, and it is a nostalgic movie, right? It is
Yeah.
absolutely, just marinating in nostalgia. So, and that's was part of its appeal to me.
Judd
But
Hirsch too. That, he for such a small scene, I was getting like chills. Like I'm like, this is Quint in Jaws. Like he just showed up and nailed that character like immediately. Like there was something really gruff and honest. I've always like kind of liked him. I'm like, hey, he's an okay actor. He shows up in things here and there. But in this movie, I just felt like, wow, like he came in for this one scene, maybe two scenes.
what
Which
scene? Sorry,
Judd
Judd.
Hirsch, he's the her brother or her uncle
Oh, yeah, right,
shows
right,
up.
right.
He shows
That's
up
it.
for the funeral,
Judd
and
Hirsch is his name? No, that's not his name, is
Judd
it?
Hirsch, right? Am I wrong? Let me check my Oscars. Hold on. Are we all watching this? Actor in a supporting role. Judd Hirsch,
Okay,
Fablemans. Yeah,
you're
I'm on
right.
it. Back. Let's get us back here. Yeah, I just there was something so honest in his performance. Like it really felt like a guy who's just knew in his head what he was going to do showing up. I enjoyed that. I don't know. There's a lot of little things I liked. Things I didn't like. I felt like the parent situation was Spielberged. It was like something's wrong with the mom, but he doesn't really want to get too deep into it. And that affair, they play it off like it's just this harmless love thing. And in the back of your head, you're like, no, they were banging. Like those two, I don't care what they tell their son.
Yeah, there's a
You
there's
know,
a gloss of innocence that's played over it. Yeah, and I think that was one of my. I would say I like the dramatic twist of it, but he didn't go. It wasn't messy. It wasn't messy as it I think in any other, most other relations it would be, right. I mean,
yeah,
is the best friend, with his best friend's wife, and yeah, there was a little bit of a sugar coating with the whole thing, and everything is happily, ever after at the end, and everyone's friendly.
yeah.
Maybe that's realistic. Maybe that's actually how it happened. I know, I'm sure those things do happen, but more often than not, it's a lot messier than that, a lot more complicated, and that's where it sort of becomes again the Hollywood ending, the happy ending. Like, oh, we got a little bit of a dramatic tension here, a little bit of a, you know, drama, and let's just resolve it. Where there's going to be pain and heartbreak, but at the end, everyone's going to move on and be happy ever after. And it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I guess that's where my beef with the whole movie right there is um
Yeah,
the
it's that little there's something inauthentic. And this feels like a movie that if it just were completely authentic, I would love it. Like this would be Spielberg's back, you know? but it's just that something's not real here. And
Yeah, he
I
can't
felt
resist putting that saccharine kind of twist on
mm,
things and
like the
softening
dad
it
too.
and
They want you to
tying it up in
hate
a
the
bow.
dad, and he never. All the dad does is say in like a couple of scenes, like, "Oh, you know, being a filmmaker is not a real thing," or like, but he supports him. He buys him all the stuff he needs. He's more
Right.
there for him than the mom is. But like he's portrayed as like this evil. Oh, the dad didn't want him to do it, you know.
But
And
he's
then
not. Well, the thing is he's not. That's the contradiction. Like he's portrayed as a very likable, lovable. Like I was thinking, like, wow, that's a cool dad. Wish my dad
yeah,
were that way.
that's what I
Sorry, dad,
thought.
if you're listening. Um, but it's true. But
You want to say that again for your dad? Just
I wish Paul Dano was my real dad. Um,
don't say
but I thought Paul Dano, like he's just has such a nice, it's hard to dislike him, except maybe in There Will Be Blood, but
he was great.
um,
He's great.
he, it's again, it's supposed to introduce a little bit of narrative tension there, right? But it doesn't really that much because the dad may be kind of dragging his feet on, he may not be supporting his son gung ho 100%, but at the same time he is. He may be waving his hands at oh, I can't believe you want to be a filmmaker while his mom is secretly supporting him, but there's still everything's so happy and so supportive and normal that the dramatic tension is just kind of loosened from the whole thing to where it doesn't it's softened, again, a little sugar coating around everything makes it a little you know tasty little morsel that goes down and it's again it's kind of the worst parts of Spielberg, I guess.
But I would say on the whole, though, as someone who part of me wants to be like, ah, Spielberg's done. He's lost it. He's off. I was surprised. That I enjoyed this movie as much as I
Yeah,
did.
no, I mean, again, I enjoyed it. I just didn't think it was really great. I felt like it could have been, but he chose a crowd pleasing route, which is
Yeah,
what he does, and
that's his thing.
that's his jam. So I can't fault him for that. So it is a crowd pleasing movie, and yeah.
Let's all
All right,
right.
that's all I'm
Let's
going to say on that.
yeah. Let's. So we've touched on all 10 of these movies. Actually, you know what? Let me stop sharing
We're
my
getting kind of
screen.
late here.
Yeah,
Just
we're getting a little late here. Sorry. Thanks for staying up with us, everybody. We wanted this under an hour, and I think we're at close to an hour and a half. So, uh, yeah, 10 movies. I don't know. So in the old days, we were saying they used to pick 5 movies, correct? To be the
yes.
so I was kind of interested in of these 10, what 5 do you think if this were still, whenever, 1995 or whatever, what 5 would you are kind of the A group and what are the 5 that are the B group? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the A team. My
Who's
A
the A
team.
team?
B.A. Baracus.
Not the real A team. The 5 movies. Which ones?
Um, so yeah, in order, I guess would be Banshees of Inisherin, which we talked about ad nauseum. Triangle of Sadness, Tar, and then I would probably put Women Talking as 4, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once as 5. Although I might switch those around. But yeah, that's my top 5.
I
How
think
about you?
we're almost on the same page because I'm at Everything Everywhere All at Once, Banshees of Inisherin, and Tar. Those are like easy 3. Um, then I kind of it's I would put Fablemans in there. I would. I feel like Spielberg is kind of to me a bit of classic Hollywood, and would I love it that it won? No, but if it did win, I wouldn't be put out or anything. And then for me, 5 would probably be the toss up, the All Quiet on the Western Front or Women Talking, like kind of which book movie that I didn't totally love. But the ones that I put in the B team are more Top Gun and Avatar because I just feel like again popcorn e movies. They don't feel like Oscar winners to me. Elvis I did not enjoy. Triangle of Sadness that's where probably where our biggest difference is.
I know you and Sam hated. I was hoping Sam would be on tonight.
Sam loved Elvis, so
Yeah.
that's one reason I miss
And he,
him
and he
tonight.
hated
Just
Triangle of Sadness.
yeah,
So So yeah, there was gonna be a fiery debate, fiery Sam,
We would have gone for 4
flaming
hours.
Sam. Yeah, we'll have to. I'm sure next year we'll have to do this again. But yeah,
All right.
yeah. No, I mean, Triangle of Sadness it's a controversial one, definitely. A lot of people did not like that movie, and but yeah, it just his whatever his angle, it just works with me. This sort of detachment from from what he's viewing, and his kind of dripping with contempt for his characters, which yeah, I could see how that's off-putting, but it's not something you see in film that much, right?
Yeah.
It's not a common thing, and it's certainly something that I think everybody feels, and if you don't, you're lying. You certainly, everybody can kind of watch and kind of be judgy, you know, and for people, and it's sometimes fascinating to watch. And also, a lot of these characters are very full of themselves, and it's kind of fun to watch them get the air, taken out of them. There's I will admit to a pleasure in that.
All right, we're on a different page on that one. Let's shut this down.
All right.
All right, guys. Our next episode will be The Ring. No promises on when that's coming. Do we have any other business to wrap up, Lance?
No, I think we're good, Kenny. Cheers to everybody, and enjoy the awards.
Yep. Enjoy the Oscars, people. Thanks for sticking around. See you soon. Wait. Stop recording.